The dangerous truth about INFJs and emotional mirrors. You know, being an INFJ is like walking through life with a pair of glasses that lets you see straight into people's souls. It's a gift, but it's also a curse. I learned this the hard way when I realized how dangerous it could be to hold up an emotional mirror to someone who wasn't ready to face their own reflection. This story isn't something I share lightly. It's raw, uncomfortable, and still stirs something deep in me every time I think about it. But maybe, just maybe, you'll find a piece of yourself in it, or at least understand why INFJs often feel like they're carrying the weight of the world. It all started when I met her. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah was magnetic, one of those people who could light up a room with her laughter and charm. But beneath the surface, I could feel something off. You know how INFJs have this sixth sense about people? That was kicking into overdrive. There was a sadness in her eyes, a subtle defensiveness in her body language, like she was wearing armor even when she was smiling. We became friends quickly, too quickly in hindsight. Sarah was drawn to me because, as she put it, I got her in a way no one else did, and she wasn't wrong. I could see past the facade she showed the world, straight into the pain and insecurity she tried so hard to hide. I wanted to help her, to be her safe space. But what I didn't realize was that Sarah wasn't looking for healing. She was looking for validation, a mirror to tell her the lies she told herself were true. At first, everything seemed fine. We'd have these deep, soul-bearing conversations where she'd open up about her childhood, her failed relationships, her fears. She'd say things like, "You just understand me. No one else ever has." And I'd sit there listening, absorbing, reflecting her emotions back to her, like the empathetic sponge that I am. But then, something shifted. The closer I got to the truth of who she was, the more defensive she became. It was subtle at first. Little comments about how I was too intense, or how I made her feel exposed. She started pulling away, and when I'd ask if something was wrong, she'd deny it, saying I was overthinking. I wasn't overthinking. I knew exactly what was happening. She was looking into the mirror I'd become and seeing parts of herself she didn't want to face. Her insecurities, her fears, her need for control. It was all laid bare, and she hated me for it. Things came to a head one night when we had an argument that started over something trivial, but quickly spiraled into something much deeper. She accused me of judging her, of trying to psychoanalyze her like she was some kind of project. "You think you know me, but you don't," she snapped, her voice trembling. "You make me feel like I'm not enough." Her words hit at me like a punch to the gut. I'd never once told her she wasn't enough. In fact, I'd spent months trying to show her the opposite. But in that moment,
Have you
I
ever felt
realized
drawn
something
to someone
important.
so
It
deeply that
wasn't
it
about
almost
what I'd
felt
done
like
or
fate?
said.
That
It was
was
about
me
what
when I
she
met
saw
him.
in me, a
Being
reflection
an
of the parts of
INFJ,
herself she
I've
couldn't
always been a
accept.
bit of a romantic
After that night, our
idealist,
friendship
believing
dissolved.
in the idea of
Sarah cut me out
soulmates
of her
and
life
once-in-a-lifetime
completely, and as
connection.
much as it hurt,
So when he
I didn't
came
fight
into
it.
my life,
I knew
it
that
felt
trying
like
to
the
hold on
universe
would
had
only make
aligned
things
just
worse
for
both
us
of
to
us.
meet.
But the experience left
At
me
first,
shaken.
he seemed perfect.
For weeks, I questioned
Almost
everything.
too perfect.
My
He was
intuition,
charming.
my empathy, my ability to connect with people. Was I too much? Was I really judging her without realizing it? Or was I simply the mirror she wasn't ready to face? Looking back now, I can see the truth more clearly. Being an INFJ means we often act as mirrors for the people around us, reflecting their emotions, their insecurities, and their true selves, sometimes without even trying. It's both our greatest strength and our greatest vulnerability. Not everyone is ready to face what they
Experience
see in that
sheds
mirror.
light on this
And when they're
complex
not,
and often
they'll lash
devastating
out,
dynamic.
blaming the mirror instead of
Let's
confronting
talk
their own
about the
reflection.
attraction between
It's not our
INFJs and
fault, but it's
narcissists,
still painful
why
to
it
be the one
happens,
holding up that
and
mirror.
why it's such a dangerous
If you've
mix.
ever felt like your empathy has made you a target,
INFJs by
or your
nature
insights
are
have pushed people away,
empathetic, intuitive,
know this:
and
you're not alone. And it's not a flaw in you. It's a flaw in the world that isn't always ready for the depth and understanding you bring. These days, I'm more careful about how much of myself
on the
I
other
share,
hand,
and
are
with
master
whom.
manipulators.
I still hold up
They know
mirrors,
how to
but I make
charm
sure the
and
person on the other side
often
is ready to
presenting
see what's
themselves
there.
as confident,
Because being an
successful,
INFJ isn't
and
about fixing people. It's about connecting with those who can handle the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. So if you've ever been accused of being too intense or too much, don't let it dim your light. The world needs mirrors, even if some people aren't ready to look.